This week, we're setting the popcorn time machine back to May 19th, 1989, pouring ourselves a black coffee and chilling out. Step on in as we head to the Double Deuce where the beer is half off, just like the clothes on all the women in this movie. We're going to kick, punch, and rip throats through this episode, but don't forget the rules. Be nice. Back again, ready to rewatch, rewind, and react to our favorite 80s and 90s movies. We are Popcorn Time Machine. If you are just kind of finding us, go figure out where you can find us on our socials. Instagram, you can search Popcorn Time Machine Pod and head over to our YouTube page at Popcorn Time Machine Podcast as well. Of course, this time machine is pretty heavy lifting. I can't do this all by myself, so we have the entire cast and crew alongside with me today. We have Sil, Kevin, Jimmy, and Diaz. How's everybody doing?
Oh, we're doing good today.
Fantastic.
We're gonna try not to eat the big white mint.
Do not eat the big white mint.
That one. Man.
This place has a sign hanging over the urinal that says, "Don't eat the big white mint."
As you heard in our introduction, we are discussing the 1989 movie Roadhouse, directed by Rowdy Harrington. This is where the bouncer, Dalton, who is known as the Cooler, played by Patrick Swayze, is hired to clean up the baddest honky-tonk in a Missouri town. Armed with a black belt in karate and a Ph.D. in philosophy. What a combo right there. Swayze sets out to tame the Double Deuce. This is also starring Kelly Lynch as Doc, and I'm just glad that they gave her a full name. Not.
Hey, this is our third movie with a second movie with a Doc character.
Right? We have the great Samuel Elliott as Wade Garrett. We got Ben Gazzara as Brad Wesley, and then a whole hodgepodge of bouncers, karate masters, and unruly bar patrons, and just an endless amount of topless women.
So now let's take out the trash.
You are the bouncers. I am the Cooler. All you have to do is watch my back and each other's. Take out the trash.
Let's do it. So we're going to start off this week with our segment of Real Talk. Real Talk, so funny, right? REEL. Haha. We're just kind of shoot the shit on the movie. We're going to go through this thing and just talk about it, have some fun with it. What did we like? What didn't we like? We'll walk through this whole thing. And then once we finish up there, we're going to sort of get into our categories, so to speak. So it's sort of just open platform. We can kind of go scene by scene. We can just do moments. But I just thought that just from starting this movie, was this the longest title card sequence anybody else has seen? Because I feel like the titles and the cast and crew were going for like 20 minutes on this thing.
Yeah, yes, it was, bro. I thought about that myself. I was like, dude, when are they going to say directed by?
They did feed it to you pretty slow.
This was very drawn out, but while doing so, this thing gave us a lot to unpack in that first 20 to 30 minutes, because you get him being picked up in New York, you get the whole first Double Deuce appearance. And I mean, this thing, I never got a reason for the Double Deuce, the title of the bar, but I gave it my own because apparently nobody gave two shits about this place before Dalton came around. That's kind of what I had to piece together on my own end, because there was really no frame of reference as to why this place.
Nobody gave two shits.
Nobody gave two shits.
You know, I love it because the first 10 minutes of the movie, I'll let you know how ridiculous it's going to be. He got stabbed and didn't even make a face.
He has powers. This man.
He got sliced and was like, nothing.
You learn later. He's like, oh, pain don't hurt.
True.
I'm like, what hurts then?
Exactly.
Tell me what hurts.
Pain does not hurt me. But yeah, you got Swayze just rocking the ultimate 90s mom gym teacher haircut. It's like that meme that goes around where it's like every 90s mom watching open the present while she's just ripping a cigarette, drinking a coffee, the old New York breakfast.
Yep.
But my biggest thing was like, what is a cooler? That's not a term what is he? He's not just a bouncer. He controls the staff. He does inventory at one point. He's working on he's just a bar manager.
I think he says something like, you're the bouncers or whatever, and I'm the Cooler.
Yeah.
Well, it's a cross between him being just cool, or he's trying to cool everything down. He's trying to keep things cool. But
diffuses the situation.
Other than in this movie, I don't think I've ever heard that term used.
I was about to, Kev, I was going to ask you, because we're the older ones here. Like, I'm not the youngest guy in the block, but I'm not that old.
If it was an industry term, like I don't know anybody that was in that that field. It's like,
I'm about to say, I've never heard of that. I was going to ask you, have you ever heard of it?
I know lots of people that were doormen or bouncers.
I was able to look it up. It is a bouncer.
Of course you
term.
did. Of course you did.
In U.S. bars, a cooler is often for the term of the head bouncer.
All right, fellas, let's bring that shit back.
The cooler is expected to have the same ability to respond to physical situations as the rest of the bouncers, but should also have reliable interpersonal skills that can be used to de-escalate situations without violence.
Judo.
But my thing with that too is like, he clearly is doing more than that in this movie. He's firing staff. He's hiring staff. He's figuring out inventory problems.
Yeah, he makes you feel like Gordon Ramsay just stepped into the Double Deuce, and he's like, "I'm gonna fix it." He's just standing there like it's raw, you know. Like
what's his name? John Taffer.
John Taff.
Yeah,
He's a
John
Taff.
But like the funny thing is like, you know, when he's explaining to the staff, just be nice, and then like a scene later, he's just beating the shit out of everybody, like right off the bat. Like he literally de-escalates nothing. he
tells you to be nice until I tell you not to be nice.
Right.
No,
it's how will we know when to not be nice? You won't know. I'll tell you.
I'll tell you.
Well, how are we supposed to know when that is?
You won't. I'll let you know.
He gives the nod.
You just cover my back, I'll cover yours, and you just take out the trash.
Yep. It is definitely the most intensive bar rescue ever seen.
Yeah.
Because that was one of my other things too, is, you know, this is 89. Just assuming, I don't think it's mentioned, so I'm assuming it's present day for when it was released. But how does everybody across the country know this guy?
Well,
he has to be John Taffer level.
Right. And how is he like, it doesn't even explain how he's friends with the blind singer. They're just, he just knows him.
They lay out this premise, which I don't think is real, where there's like this network, like it's this network of well-known, well-connected. Maybe there's a union, the Cooler Union, and they're all members and they all know each other. And he's like, Garrett and Dalton, and the guy who's the singer is like, he's been in this network of dive bars, and they're all this connected.
I mean, did I miss something? Does it ever explain that? How he just walks right up to the blind guy like they've known each other for years, and I thought was it his brother? Is it I don't know.
They had worked together in other bars because
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So Cody, the character Cody says to him, he's like, "Oh, Dalton, this place is worse than some of the other ones we worked in." So he knows him from working in places. He's like, "This place is worse than all of them." It's like they sweep up the eyeballs at the end of the night here. And
why are you still there?
They swept his eyeball.
Why is the singer still there if it's the worst one? They're throwing beer bottles at him. He's behind a cage.
So that opening scene kind of sets the premise for how kind of comical it's going to be without saying it's a comedy. The bar is in total chaos. I mean, if this was the real average night, so every night there's a huge melee. The waitresses get beat up. They smash the band with stuff. They wreck the place. There's thousands of dollars every night in damage. And then we just clean it up. We ice ourselves down, and then we come back tomorrow night. Yep. That was a good Monday. See you tomorrow.
The funny thing is, they caused us like thousands of dollars in damage, but Patrick Swayze, Dalton's worried about the bartender skimming off by like taking a couple, bucks out of the register,
if I
serving
was
up free beers.
If I would have been hired to be the cooler and save this bar, my first move, plastic drinkware.
Yeah. Why are we still serving bottles here?
Paper plates,
cans, and plastic bottles.
Can John Taffer save this bar?
I don't think he could. But back to the band too. It took me a while to figure out he was blind because he was still making eye contact. Like he was matching eye contact, and I'm like, I know from like a filmmaking standpoint, you want that.
But he's really blind.
Made me
he's
not
truly blind. Jeff Healy was a blind musician.
But I didn't know that. I was just like, he's playing the guitar a little. I didn't really think anything of it. And then he goes to show he's just trying to creep up and scare the poor guy. I mean, I know he's buddies with him, but he's telling the other bandmates like, shh, I'm coming around.
I thought you'd be bigger.
I know we find out throughout the movie that Brad Wesley has everyone on his payroll and stuff, but. As I'm sitting here watching it for the first time, I'm thinking, why aren't the police involved? Why isn't everyone calling the cops? Like,
No, they're not.
The cops. He owns the cops, man.
Well,
like nobody.
Haven't you
Right.
seen?
No, I found that out later.
Every
but-
small town plot in every movie that
Yeah.
the bad guys have got the sheriff in their pocket.
Yep.
Another little fun part that I really liked in this, first 20 to 30 minutes was the great for a great buck turned into for a great Buick. This guy can go to New York, hire the top cooler because everybody knows him, but he can't afford a bucket of paint to just paint over this stuff.
$500 a night or something he asked for, right? Or something.
So he just can't. I don't know. That's just small.
There's something
that
about these
bothered me.
all movies. I mean, I don't know. I don't think old studios could afford to recreate New York or Miami or LA that often. They'd rather spend the money on big trucks and $25,000 explosions because and say, you know what? Let's just pick a fucking Jasper, Missouri. That's the town that we're going to replicate and build this shit. Yeah, they don't have. There's nothing. There's no references. You don't have to. Nothing. They just need a road and a bunch of stands. And
so this guy. That's another thing. So you made a good point. It's in Jasper, Missouri. So in Jasper, Missouri, someone was at the bar and they said, "You know who you should hire to fix this? Dalton."
I know.
They talked to people in the network, the cooler network, and they said, "Hey, who's the guy?" And they're like, "Well, Wade Garrett's getting on in years, so really, you want his protege, you want Dalton."
The name is Dalton.
And then a quick turnaround, like Sil said, $500 a day. I'm not a math whiz by any means, but $500 a day now is good money.
Yeah.
Like, who pays
just for inflation?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's a lot of Uber
drives. And then so $500 a day, and then he offers that poor farmer $100 a month for that huge apartment.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
This guy built above his barn a beautiful, large farmhouse style apartment, big, spacious with all the stuff. What's the farmer living in? He'd be like, "I'm moving into the apartment over the cows, man."
It's Lakeview.
I'll give you 100.
What are the odds? Right across from
Dirtbag move from Dirtbag Dalton. I know Kevin will understand this reference a little bit, and I'll sort of explain it beforehand to everybody else too. But the fact that everybody was instantly talking about Dalton and knew him, they all had these rumors and whispers of how he killed a guy and he ripped a man's throat out. This is kind of it's reminiscent to me like the documentary The Staircase with Michael Peterson, where it's like this guy, this author, famous author, he had 2 wives, both end up dead at the bottom of a staircase, but got off on both of them. Like,
it was the owl that did it.
So now you have Dalton who's getting away with murder by ripping out a man's throat twice now, and it's just like, well, it was self-defense. It's just such a ridiculous concept of like getting away with just bizarre situations that, if it happens once, maybe you can kind of throw it away and chalk it up as, a random act or whatever. But to repeat the exact murder method twice and get out of it. All right.
That woman didn't tell you she was married.
And when a man sticks a gun in your face, you got 2 choices. You can die or you can kill the motherfucker.
You slept with his wife. He's gonna try to kill you. It's his wife.
And not just kill him, it's the throat. It's the throat kill.
The ripping of a man's throat out. Which is it physically possible? Do we think this is physically possible to rip a throat out?
You gotta ask Thanos.
Yeah,
it's the old windpipe extraction.
Yeah, I don't know. I had another question that maybe Kevin can answer since this was more your time. Because of this movie and probably the Karate Kid movies, how many kids got their ass kicked thinking that they knew karate?
Everybody went to school thinking they were cooler.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's sitting back, picking on the big guy, go for the knees. How did that turn out for everybody?
He's got his ass beat, and his dad's like, "What the hell happened?" He's like, "I don't know. I followed the 3 rules. I expected the unexpected. I didn't fight inside the school. I took it outside." Right? And I was really nice, and the guy punched me right in the face, broke my nose.
I feel like this movie probably played a part in a lot of black eyes and broken bones back in the 80s, early 90s.
You know what's funny though? There's listen, being ethnic, where the hell was any ethnicity in this whole movie?
Ernie,
Keith David, he was the bartender.
The one black bartender.
One black bartender.
You are in Jasper, Missouri.
That's Ernie.
Jasper, Missouri.
There should be
a couple more black people in Missouri.
There's got to be. But again, 80s, 90s movies, you know it's not going to happen.
Overall, like talking real talk, there's something that gets quoted in a lot of reviews and people talk about this movie, and I think it's true. Everybody seems to come back to the same phrase. It's so bad, it's good.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what created this big cult following. You know, this wasn't successful. This wasn't a box office hit. This didn't get the best reviews. And today it still kind of stands the test of time because of that campiness, that really just weird love of bad action, not great acting, because a lot of these actors, so all the actors in this movie did their own stunts. So some of them were hired as more stuntmen turned actor versus actor turned stuntman. So that's why it's kind of just like not the best fighting sequences. They had great choreography behind the scenes and a great, well, I think on set ambassador.
The director actually want the fight scenes to be almost slightly comical, I think.
And if that's what he wanted, he got it. That's for sure.
that was a win. I
think I read that he wanted it to be a little bit like Keystone Cops, almost like comedy fights, which they border right on the middle of like, a real fight versus bizarre, Yeah. Right. That's why I was thinking, like, I'm trying to think. I couldn't answer this question to myself. Are the fight scenes really terrible or really good? I don't know.
I don't know if there is an answer for that question.
Well, when you think, go ahead.
The director said that he liked the comical part of the fight scenes. Like he was purposely doing it, like making it look silly. And because it's true, you get the same feeling. Like you want it to be a good punch, but all you get is sound effect, and you're like, "Was that it?"
Yeah.
Well, I think this is one of those movies, and this happened to a bunch of movies around this time. Is that if you remember, cable TV was just coming to become popular, and there was new cable networks, and they were new networks, new channels, and they had to have 24 hours of programming. So a lot of these movies that didn't do so well, they bought licensing for like all of these, not really B movies, but movies that might have been more affordable, and played them a lot. So some of these movies became cult classics, like the Christmas Story movie. Did terribly when it was released, right, for years. And then some cable networks put it on 24-hour rotation. Again, cable networks were just coming around and like, hey, we got all this time we have to fill. They buy a library of certain movies that are fairly cheap, and they run them over and over. And then people get hooked on them, because every time you turn the TV on, you'd get, as they say, Shawshank, and it's like, oh, Roadhouse. Oh, well, next thing you know, you're an hour into it.
But yeah, I mean, as you kind of both mentioned, this really wasn't a huge success, and the reviews vary on this thing. It's just funny how things like that happen.
Yeah, I think it goes with what Kevin said. It sucked so bad. It was so bad. It was awesome.
But there's so many movies in that category that are so great. And after watching this, I'm regretting. I just watched this for the first time recently, and it upset me because this is right down my wheelhouse. I love horrible action, karate, gun blowing up, random stuff. I love. This is just shitty goodness. That's all I can think of.
So fight scenes, decent music, and Sam Elliott.
Yeah,
can't go wrong.
You can't beat him with that. But yeah, Sil, I think you had some reviews to go through, because this is, like we said, this is such a wide variety, and I'm curious what the difference is, because I think we're going to do on this program, we're going to stick with Rotten Tomatoes. It might not be the most accurate, but I like that it gives a good difference between, it shows the critics and the audience, which I think is always fun, because there's some movies that are critically acclaimed that the audience just doesn't like, and vice versa, which I think might be the case with this movie. I'm not too sure where it's going to land on that, because I didn't look up ahead of time, because I wanted to be a little surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you're always surprised when you go to that Rotten Tomato. At least I can never guess right. I can never rate right, but I'm just a mortal. That's why critics are out there. But so this movie stands in the tomato meter, if that's how you say, at a 41%.
Yeah, baby.
41%.
That's better what I thought. I thought it was like 30s. So that's much better than
41%. I mean, critics are critics. I mean, and I think it all bases on what we mentioned earlier, the fact that this movie is like it's kind of like pain, a little bit of a pain to watch it, but you kind of enjoy it and you still watch it you still watch the whole movie. Let's see, reviews wise, I have, this is a pretty negative, quote unquote. Well, it's pretty negative. Roadhouse is a cinematic catastrophe masquerading as an action thriller. Directed by the aptly named Rowdy Harrington, this film is a mishmash of nonsensical plotliness, one-dimensional characters, and physics-defying fight scenes. Patrick Swayze stars as Dalton, a bouncer with all the charisma of a soggy napkin, tasked with cleaning up a bar in the middle of nowhere, his love interest, Doc, and a cartoonishly evil villain, Brad Wesley. Add little to the absurdity. But the real crime of the Roadhouse is a complete disregard for logic and reason. From gravity-defying bar fights to Dalton's magical healing abilities, the film stretches believability to the breaking point.
I want to see it again. Now you just made me want to see the movie again. Like that. This right now. Let's put it on. Like let's watch it side by side with the podcast. That review is exactly what Kev was talking about. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Love it.
But then the audience score gets a 67%. It's not
so the audience loved it.
Yeah, it's good.
We're getting there. Not bad.
Yeah, no, it's good. And for a good positive review, it's a classical adrenaline rush that's captivated audiences since its release. Obviously, I'm going to read this one in a different tone because it's not as fun. So this cult favorite stars Patrick Swayze as Dalton, legendary bouncer, magnetic performance alongside standout roles from Kelly Lynch and Ben Gazzara. I don't think he had a great role. Ben was all right. It creates a dynamic ensemble and keeps viewers engaged throughout. What truly sets Roadhouse apart is the pulse-pounding action sequences, from intense barroom brawls to high-stakes showdowns. The director Harrington delivers exhilarating moments that leave a lasting impact.
Definitely quite a range on the spectrum for those two reviews right there. Both pointing out the action sequences. One as comical and one as just pure amazement. So it's...
I mean, yeah, but talking about like the fights, whether they're great or ridiculous, that's the movie, right? Like, take.
Why
let's
can't
say
it be
you cut all the fight scenes out of this movie. It's a non-watcher. There's nothing there. There's
whoa.
There's a little bit of a love story, a little bit of the protagonist mean guy takes over town. But I mean, if you would gut the movie if you cut the fight scenes out or down, right?
There's a lot of,
a lot of $10 booby kisses.
Tell you what, for $20, you can kiss them. Are you kidding? 10 a kiss, here and now. Go ahead. Do it. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. This.
I should have put a counter on it. I would counter on how many fights and take a shot.
How many boobs?
And how many? No. Take a shot every time Patrick Swayze smokes a cigarette.
Or gets stabbed.
Yeah, right.
Every time they say his name, that's it. Drunk.
Dalton.
The name is.
You got Dalton. A name? Yeah.
Dalton.
Well, what is it?
Yeah, but this movie moves right along. This is the next scene that I really just talking about fight scenes and stuff like that. The intro of that real Dalton laying down the hammer and committing to the decision to fire Pat, the guy that was skimming, where he's in the office with the other guys that work for Wesley, and he's like, "No, I don't think I need to explain more." He's like, "No, I think you do." And a huge fight ensues because Pat pulls out the biggest knife I've ever seen.
The Rambo knife. That was the Rambo knife.
Nowhere. And goes to town towards Dalton and starts to fight towards him. And again, getting punched through the upstairs window. You got, what's the little, Tinker, the big old fat guy that's like, shouldn't be in any fight ever because he's going to be tired after 15 seconds.
He was my favorite character of the movie.
Yeah,
favorite character of the movie, Tinker.
There's a lot to discuss on Tinker, that's for sure. But I loved that little scene.
Not enough screen time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Even though he took most of the screen when he.
You know what's funny? You said something, Sliv, about the director. His name's Rowdy, right?
Yeah.
Rowdy something. That made me think, because there's a wrestler. There's Terry Funks in this, the wrestler. This honestly seems like it could have been the first WWF movie at the time. Like, this seems like it could have been done by them.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to recasting, which we'll get to later, we could have done a whole recasting of just wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, while we're on the cast and the crew and stuff like that, I mean, this did a good job. I mean, you know, Jimmy will know more than myself because he's Mr. IMDb. But you know, Swayze this is kind of in the middle of his run, his claim to fame run of, you know, Dirty Dancing, Roadhouse, Ghost, which was, you know, critically acclaimed and stuff like that.
Wolverines.
But
Red Dawn.
To bring in Sam Elliott too was just awesome. It was weird seeing him here. This was the first time. I feel like he doesn't age, but this was the youngest I've ever seen him look.
Oh, Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
So so to that point, talking about like recasting this, I was talking to my wife about how we do recasting, and she said, I think Sam Elliott could play Sam Elliott.
That is valid, 100%.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy because literally, think about the premise of this movie. We're gonna do an American fighting movie in a bar in Missouri, and the two actors that come to mind for a karate flick are Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott's an interesting character too, because before he got into acting, you know, he hated Westerns. And now that's just kind of like he's synonymous with Westerns at this point. He's just
Tombstone sealed his fate for that then.
Yep.
Yeah. And he kind of continues that character. Movie. You know, even in like, you know, The Big Lebowski, he's sort of got that rough and gruff style Western feel. He's in the Netflix series The Ranch.
And Ben Gazzara was in The Big Lebowski as well.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
He was like the porn mogul or something.
Maybe a future movie that'll get zapped into the time machine. So right after that little fight we were talking about, this is the first time we're sort of introduced to the doc in the doctor office. I did have a little note on that is, why was there just an old guy walking around with piss? I know that happens in hospitals, but we could have told it was a hospital without that.
They wanted realism. They wanted you to feel the hospital ER. They wanted you to feel
my take was immediately was like, okay, did they really have to make this look like the hot nurse from every cheap porn movie that's ever been made about nurses? That's exactly the character she played.
Yeah, pretty much.
In that scene anyways.
Jimmy, do you have more info on the doc character? Because I really don't know too much about her background.
Yes.
Kelly Lynch.
I looked her up because she didn't look too familiar, but she's been in a few movies. I remember her being Vivian Wood in Charlie's Angels, and she had actually a pretty sweet fight scene. She was like Sam Rockwell's character's like number 2, or, you know, like second in command. She was in Cocktail with Tom Cruise.
Classic 1988.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
And to round it all off, she was in 1997's classic Mr. Magoo with Leslie Nielsen. That's really those.
I can't even comment.
I was going through the filmography, and I was like, "There's nothing here except for Mr. Magoo, Cocktail, and 2000's Charlie's Angels." And like to piggyback, like Sam Elliott, you know, he's kind of had, you know, I thought he was more television. He was in a lot of shows throughout his career, but yes, he was in Tombstone, obviously. He was in the Quick and the Dead series. You know, Big Lebowski, obviously, is like kind of like,
was he Cher's husband in Mask?
Yes, yeah, he was in Mask with.
He was in Mask. He was.
I think he was the boyfriend or husband or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, you're right. God, Eric Stone, right?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yep.
Back to the Future. Well, what's his name? We talked about him in Back to the
Eric
Future.
Stoltz. Sorry, Eric
Stoltz is the actor.
Stoltz,
yeah,
who was going to play Marty? Gettysburg. You know, one of the greatest Civil War movies, if not greatest, one of the greatest war movies of all time. And he's kind of had like a huge resurgence back with television. You know, he's Yellowstone, 1883. He's been on that. That's been huge. Like Nick said, The Ranch, that was a good one. And then obviously Swayze, Dirty Dance. I mean, there's not really much. The Outsiders, which is my favorite. Point Break.
Don't forget. I was going to say, there you go. One of my favorite movies.
My favorite.
Point Break.
One of his most underrated roles, and like we were talking before, it kind of comes full circle. Is Donnie Darko, where now Jake Gyllenhaal is playing, like the Dalton or the cooler character in the new remake. So I thought that was cool. And then we have Ben Gazzara, another one that was I don't really know too much about. I mean, he was in Big Lebowski. He was also like in a movie Capone in the 70s, Voyage of the Damned. Kevin Teige, I believe, the guy who owns the bar, who hires Dalton. He's one of those familiar. I've seen him everywhere. He's one of those character actors.
He was the guy in a TV series that I watched through the 70s called Emergency.
Yep. He was also in $6 Million Man. Yep.
He was in the $6 million man. You hear me? The $6 million man.
Inflation.
Shooting Gilbert Grape, which is a great classic with Johnny Depp and DiCaprio.
Early DiCaprio.
And then Keith David, who's had a very long and successful career, kind of a character actor as well. He plays Ernie the bartender, very small role. But Keith David was with The Thing. It was in The Thing in the remake. John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell.
He was also he was Goliath in Gargoyles.
Yes. Yep. Something About Mary. He plays Cameron Diaz's dad when Ben Stiller wants to take her to prom. Platoon, Armageddon, and in his most recent film, he was very small role, but he played the uncle in Nope.
Is that his name? I think the character was King, right, in Platoon.
Yeah. And then, he plays the main character's uncle in Nope. I was like,
I didn't even know that one. Yeah.
Yeah. You remember he gets shot in the head with like that rock in the very beginning of the movie, and they have to take him. I don't know anything about Rowdy Harrington. He made
most people don't, I don't think.
2 films, Gladiator, 1992, not to be confused with
the good one.
Ridley Scott's, and Murder of Crows, both Cuba Gooding Jr. Led movies. And then one of my favorites, I immediately in the opening credits when this guy popped up, and this guy is synonymous with 80s action. And we all love his films. Joel Silver, Lethal Weapon, Predator 2, Lethal Weapon 2, Die Hard, Action Jackson. Like this guy, and what's so funny? If you watch all those movies at one point or another, they all have the same like action sequences, those crazy like slow motion, everything blows up. And one of my favorite things about his movies, especially in Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, it's always like the big bad is always some like middle-aged guy. You got General McAllister leading Shadow Company, pushing heroin in Lethal Weapon. You got the South African dudes in Lethal Weapon 2. You got Hans Gruber, Die Hard. They're all middle-aged, not super...
not intimidating at all.
I mean, they're powerful. They have the money, But, I mean, Joel Silver's had an awesome career. And those are just some of my favorites. Obviously, it expands further than that in the 90s and even 2000s and stuff. But, yeah, that's a little cast and crew info.
So the actress who plays Denise, who's Wesley's wife, was also in Point Break with Patrick Swayze.
Nice.
One of the fun little tidbits that I found on the internet. Kelly Lynch in real life, she married, I think he's a screenwriter, Mitch Glazer. He's friends in real life with Bill Murray, and Bill Murray being the comical asshole friend. Every time Roadhouse is on TV and the sex scenes pop up, he calls her husband Mitch and reminds him that they're on TV and how awkward they are.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's like, hey, your wife's naked on TV again. Check it out. Channel 7. See ya. Bye. Click. And another little thing I saw was that these characters, a lot of them were named after, famous Western characters. You had Wade Garrett, who was, and I don't know how true these are or not, but maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not. I like to think that it's not coincidence, but Wade Garrett was named after Pat Garrett. He's the sheriff who killed Billy the Kid. Doc is obviously a tribute to Doc Holliday. You had Tillman, who was named after this infamous Oklahoma lawman, Bill Tillman. And then you had Brad Wesley, who supposedly was named after this Wild West bandit, John Wesley Hardin. So how accurate all that is, how, if it is coincidence or not is kind of left up to viewer discretion, but it's for it being set in that style, I don't think it's too far-fetched of a concept.
So one of the things that I think Sam Elliott talked about it in an interview, but it's pretty commonly known, is that this movie was over 3 hours before they edited. So they had to cut a lot out. So there's a lot of scenes that are missing.
So there's a lot of the stuff that made it is the best of the best.
I guess even in some of the trailers, there's scenes in trailers that never even made it to the movie. So you mentioned, Ernie the bartender, Keith David. His entire existence in this movie is he hands Dalton a coffee. He has one line that says, what is it? Whiskey's running low. Right? Has a scene where he looks at Wade Garrett. He has another scene where they show him looking at Wade and Dalton together. And then he exits the movie and never seen again. So he's just a bartender. So here's why people say he had a prominent role in this movie, and it all ended up being edited out. In the opening credits, he's like fourth in the major credits at the beginning. And so they're like saying, okay, he's a bartender with one line.
Why is he
listed there in credits? So their point is they think that he showed up. I think there was some storyline where he shows up, gets into a fight at the bar and handles himself well. Dalton knows him from somewhere and hires him, and he comes in and the bartender.
He's in the network. He was in the network.
Yeah, he's in the Cooler Network.
So anyways,
the Cooler Union.
He obviously got cut. Watch the credits and see how early he's in there.
The director's cut, the finals cut.
He's billed in the opening credits 5th. So Patrick Swayze, Ben Gazzara, Kelly Lynch, and Kevin Tighe are before him. And then it's the bartender who has one line. And then it's Kathleen Wilhoit. And then the actors who played Emmett, Red, Denise, and all of them are lumped in after. And then Sam Elliott. So he's got billing before Sam Elliott.
Jesus.
So obviously he had some bigger role in this other than the whiskey's low.
Not to be seen light of day. Another one, you mentioned that Red. I forget his real name, but he was actually Elvis Presley's bodyguard at one point, and he walked away from that because of Elvis's overindulgence in drugs. But Elvis was sort of a stepping stone and pushed him more towards the acting standpoint. So that's how we kind of got into this.
Red West, and he's one of the original members of what's known as the Memphis Mafia. He went to high school with Elvis, I think, and he actually did some songwriting. And he ended up, I think actually Elvis's father, Vernon, ended up firing him because he was one of the few that was concerned about Elvis's drug problems and stuff.
Yeah. So I guess we sort of brought it up. We can kind of open it for a quick little discussion here too. Length of the movie. What do we think? This movie should have been an hour and a half.
Yes.
I was floored when I saw it was 2 hours long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blown away.
There's a lot. I feel like, I like the slow makeover of the bar. Every time you see it, it's sort of just slightly better than the last time you saw it. I like that, but I feel like there's stages that just could have been skipped. It just, and I didn't go in depth and cut scenes from it, but you could trim stuff up in this movie. I think there's a lot of fat in here. And if this thing was sitting at an hour 30, hour 45, it's almost that perfect movie. But when like you said, Jimmy, when I first put it on, I was like, there is no way this is over 2 hours.
I thought it was going to be 80 minutes. Hour and 20. I didn't think it was going to make the hour and a half mark. And I pressed pause real quick and I saw there was an hour and 52 minutes left.
They said the first cut of the movie, when they did the initial cut, it was still 3 hours and 20 minutes. Hi, Ernie.
That's like Lord of the Rings extended cut right there.
That's that's when they had to do the 2 VHSs at that time. Yeah. They would have released this right.
That's Titanic.
So the girl that played Carrie, was it Kathleen Wilhoit? They said that she had an extreme or a more elaborate storyline, and her thing was all cut out too, which kind of makes sense now, because there's a scene where so she's a waitress. She's got that cute scene where she's like, "You got a name, Dalton,"
right?
And that's kind of all you hear about her. But there is this weird cut scene where all of a sudden she's on stage singing.
Yeah, they don't explain that.
Well, she shows up at Dalton's,
knowing that
Dalton's
she had she had a more prominent role in the whole storyline, and it was cut. They're like, "Oh, sorry, we'll cut all your shit out, but all right, we'll let you keep the singing.
You'll still
part.
sing." Yeah.
So that explains why that was a weird transition. Because then she sang, and then nothing was brought up after that. It was just over.
Yeah, still, you said the same thing too. She showed up at his house, like she was friends, and she already knew where he lived to hang out with him. Like
she got to see his butt.
Yeah,
she did.
Facts.
Was I the only one?
I stand corrected.
Was I the only one who
all
thought
got to see his butt?
Who thought the bar was called Roadhouse before seeing this, and then I was totally confused when it's called Double Deuce.
I had to look up because I had to look up, and I was like, Roadhouse, why? And it's like, okay, I get that the term Roadhouse is this older term used to, as a roadside bar or restaurant. That's the term. That's what it's from. But again, it's like not really a term used that often. I just refer to it as a bar or a restaurant, not a roadhouse.
The coolers in the network all refer to it as, hey, what roadhouse are you working at? Yeah, that's everybody knows that.
Yeah, of course. Silly me. But I did originally think it was because that one of the songs the band was playing was something along the lines. Roadhouse was in the lyrics of one of the songs.
Well, I think the font of it throws you off. The font of Roadhouse is same neon sign style, and then you see the double. You're like, it's the Double Deuce. Never mind.
Or as Sam Elliott says, rolls up on his motorcycle. The Double Douche.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which leads us to another one of the scenes that I like is the physical introduction of Wade Garrett and the backstage fight that nobody knew was going on, and you had the biggest guy in the world there simply just to smash the inventory.
Yeah, for no reason.
Going on, and this dude's just chucking boxes. And I guess I can kind of jump into this term too, where there was a thing of Wade. Well, I forget what prompted the line, but where he goes, "Well, I sure ain't gonna show you my dick."
That's when they're on the loading dock and they're smashing. Yep. Well, first he's like, "Can I buy you guys a drink?" And he smashes the bottle. And
that's the nice part.
Swayze, and then he's in the fight and he's kind of gets on the losing end of things, and then Wade shows up, comes in. "You got a scrawny guy here working here named Dalton?" And he's like, "Out back," and he throws his empty smoke pack on the bar and says, "Pour me a beer, I'll be back." And then he goes out there.
"How's it going, mijo?"
"Mind your own business, Dad." "You want to fight, dickless?"
"I sure ain't gonna show you my dick."
One of my favorite lines in the movie is before he rips the dude's jugular out. He goes,
"Oh God,
I used to fuck guys. I used to fuck guys like you in prison." And
that's intimidating.
And I had to do the little 10-second rewind because I was like, did I hear that?
I did the
But
same
the best
thing.
part is also in that same scene, Swayze doesn't have a cool line. He goes, "God, you really are an asshole," and then just like.
This kind of ties into this. I was taking notes on certain things, and this list of notes got a lot longer than I had expected. But there is some serious underlying homoerotic tones to this film that I did not expect to be in there, and I have so many lines that fall into this.
So many,
like fucking guys in prison.
Yeah, well, there was one guy in the beginning, and apologies if this list is long because there was a lot more than I had expected. But there was a guy in the beginning who said, "I've always wanted to try you."
Yep.
Tillman says to Dalton, "I want you."
Yeah.
Jimmy, obviously, with the line of, "I used to fuck guys like you in prison." You had Terry Funk saying, "I heard you had balls big enough to come in a dump truck." You had Brad at one point when he was like petting the guy at his sex party saying, "I love this guy. Isn't he cute?" You had both Emmett and Brad just staring at shirtless Dalton while he does his Tai Chi or yoga or whatever. You have Wade Garrett
straight stalking him like.
You have Wade Garrett flashing his pubes at the bar in the middle of the day,
in the middle of the diner while they're
pulling it out. You had when the whole "if you're gonna have a pet, keep it on a leash" term. That's when Wesley calls for his little boy buddy Jimmy to come out. So that's his pet, I guess. Obviously in a violent fashion, but it doesn't come along that way once you have all these things adding up. You had Jimmy telling Dalton, "Your ass is mine, boy." Yep. And then towards the end, when they have that fight scene in the trophy room, Wesley tells Dalton that the only thing this room is missing is your ass.
Yep.
Just this movie is filtered with just as masculine as it wanted to be. You know, it's a bar fighting movie with a bunch of naked chicks and all that. There's a lot of underlying stuff in this movie.
Talk about like a big masculine fighting movie. The first fight in the movie, it's a guy pushing up a girl, getting in a fight with the girl. That's the first fight of the movie. The one that sets the tone. It's about they're about to get fucking down. Yeah, this guy is pushing off this girl.
Oh, you know what's one of my favorite details, and it just comes up. I'm watching the movie simultaneously, progressively every time, like the bar closes, his car just gets progressively more fucked up. Like first it's just the tires being slashed. Now there's a stop sign through the window.
A stop sign,
and the best part is I'm at the scene, and there's the stop sign through the window. And Dr. Clayton just drops him off. Like, doesn't
and neither of them like make even notice of it. She's like saying goodbye. She drops him off in the Jeep and he's like, yeah, okay, bye. And he's like just reaching over and he's pulling a stop sign out of his
business as usual.
And then he's standing there like holding the stop sign saying, bye. See ya, yeah, bye.
As he's like mesmerized by her. Oh, but that's hysterical. I wanted the next scene for like the car to be on fire. You know,
and he just drives away with it being on fire.
Well, first of all, nothing in that movie is just on fire. It all explodes.
Blows up.
Oh yeah, and it's not like it starts on fire and then one explosion and then like a massive explosion followed by like multiple little explosions right after.
Yeah. This guy is definitely the gasoline hoarder of the town. There was a little aspect towards the end that this storyline, maybe it was snipped a little bit short, like Kevin was mentioning earlier, that stuff got kind of cut, but it didn't really work with me. The whole like towing the line as Dalton being this bad guy, you know, it kind of scared Doc away a little bit. There was a line earlier in the film where he said like, I want you to leave before you think I'm a bad guy or something along the lines. But and she referenced something where, you know, who's going to protect the town people from you? And it's like, he's not in this to take over the town and be like the new mob boss of Jasper. So that part just kind of was like, I didn't really need this whole like questioning if Dalton's a good guy or a bad guy. I mean, he literally ran into a burning building to save a guy. He's there to clean up the bar. He's doing his job. He lives in a very violent world, but he's a good guy. You know, like that whole conflict of interest between the two, it just seemed like a little forced because he's not the bad guy for sure.
Also, another weird thing is he got attached to this one girl. You mean this to tell me this is the first piece of ass he's gotten on a mission? Like if he's a cooler going bar to bar, he must have been crushing some girls. So he sleeps with this one chick and all of a sudden he wants to clean up the whole town. Does he stay in this town or he's still a cooler? Is he retiring the cooler of the Double Deuce or is he on to the next mission? Like, what?
Yeah. Can't answer that one.
Yeah,
and then the last little thing that I took note of in this movie, the very ending when they are, well, obviously not the big whole conclusion to the storyline, but the ending where they are skinny dipping. Did anybody else notice something interesting about that scene? I saw what looks to be, and I paused it. It's sort of in the background. I believe the blind singer is there with them sitting playing guitar up on the grassy area.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look at that scene.
Forwarding right now.
Did you imagine that?
I'm pretty sure they brought him along. And I mean, hey, if they're skinny dipping, you can't see him anyway, so he's not going to know the difference.
That's a good point, right?
I kind of caught that. I had to pause and I was like, wait a second.
Oh, yep, he's there.
There is somebody in the background.
He is singing Indian style in the background while she's running in. 100%. He's there. I pause it. It is that directly. Fans that are listening at home, with 4 minutes and 18 seconds left in the movie, you can see the singer in the grass as they're butt naked in the water.
Just a fun little thing to pick up, and I don't know why. And again, to Kevin's point that he brought up, maybe there was some scenes that were cut in between the two because it just didn't fit. And for whatever reason, the guitarist of the band is just sitting, hanging out with them, enjoying a nice little day in the wind, not knowing what's going on in the lake.
That might have not even been the end of the movie. It could have been in the middle when they were getting together and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, they could have chopped it up.
They could have, could have done whatever.
I've got a question. Going scenes back. The guy that owns like the automotive, is his name Red? Or the guy that like what's
Red?
his name?
Red. The guy that owns like
Doc Clayton's uncle, right? Anyone notice the photo of like when Patrick Swayze looks over and just sees like this super like model like picture of his like niece just plastered and it's like this black and white like Sports Illustrated swimsuit photo of his niece just hanging out, and like I just thought that was a little weird because that's not a picture I want of my niece. Like I thought it would be like something a little more homely, and it's this black and white like super awesome photo of. I just thought it was weird. Like I just thought it was weird.
Some things don't age well in this movie.
He's the creepy uncle.
But what's any other comments about this movie before we get into the categories? Or are we ready to jump right into our stop it segment where we point out the good, the bad, and the ugly?
I think we're ready to go.
All right, well, let's rock and roll. So stop it. Good, bad, and ugly. What is the one scene that made you rewatch it for the good? What is one scene that made you stop it for the bad? And what is just ugly? What did not age well? What aged like fine milk and doesn't hold up to today's standards? So we'll just kind of go around the horn on our good scene. So Sil, you're at the top. What is your first good stop it scene?
I would say my first good stop scene. I did not get this the first time I saw the movie. So when I rewatched it, I got to enjoy Dalton's character more. And it's when he takes a job and he goes to Jasper, whatever town, and he goes to the bar. He knows what kind of mess he's got to fix. And then he's talking to everybody like how things are going to change, whatever. And then the next scene is like him at the dealership. You're like, what? You don't know. I didn't get that. No, but this man is so badass that he knows what's going to happen. He goes to a dealership, buys a trashy ass car. Oh yeah, does the light work? That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else but just the lights. And then goes to the tire place, buys a bunch of tires, packs them up in the trunk.
Yep.
You know why, right? You don't get it. No, yeah, then it makes sense. This guy's gonna shake shit up, stir the pot.
Oh yeah, I totally get that now because I was wondering the same thing. I was like, because his tires always get fucking slashed.
Right. He wasn't
That's
worried
even
about,
funnier.
He wasn't worried about the headlights working. He was more worried about the covers that came down over him. Because he knew that they couldn't smash the lights out if the covers were.
Oh, there we go.
We're down.
Yeah, I think that was that. So the whole movie, there's a lot of setting up Dalton to be a badass, right? Like for literally the first 45 minutes, probably the whole movie, but just setting him up. Yeah, right. And all this like little details, but that's pretty bad. He's like, I know what kind of shit I'm going to watch. And that, as soon as he's done with his first shift, tire slash. The next shift.
Yeah.
Stop sign through the window. I mean, the movie ends without his Mercedes, right? Being all trashed, right? So it's like that he knows what's at stake, I guess. And I think that watching it the second time sets up the movie very well, as in like this guy knows what he's doing. He's here to fix it. So
he's been here before.
That also makes sense when you talk about that stuff. In the beginning of the movie, he gives the car to the old black guy. To the bum on the side of the street. He gives his old car to that guy because he's going to go get an old car at the new bar.
What do I look like? A chauffeur or a valet? Look like a valet? Keep it at yours.
Yeah. Kevin, what was the one good scene for you?
I mean, there's a lot of small scenes that are good, but I think to set the whole stage for the movie, like I said, that opening scene where it's like they're trying to portray the Double Deuce as here's a typical night. And there's literally just chaos going on. I mean, the huge fight, the band behind the cage. I think there's some dude shirtless dancing in front of the stage.
Yes. Yep.
I think that's the scene only because that encapsulates
the
here's
chaos.
what you're in for. Sit down. This is what you're going to see for the next hour.
Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Diaz, what's your good stop it scene?
Oh, the first fight at the Double Deuce. The first time you see Dalton fight, like you said, the bar scene where the bartender wants his job back and takes out the Rambo knife. I was all in right there. When he took out the Rambo knife, it was like, let's go. And they have that big fight scene for no reason. All Dalton says is, "Don't fight in the bar." And that's all they did that fight. And not only that, exactly, all the bartenders were fighting too. Like, they was like, is it going down, boss? It's going down. That whole fight, right when they cleaned up the bar, they destroyed it themselves. Love it. Yeah. Love it.
Jimmy, what's your one good stop it scene?
I like the fight with Jimmy and Dalton. Like the fight leading up to
the vaults onto the stage.
Yeah, where you the second fight when he rips out the jugular when he wants to fuck him like he did in prison.
Inside the house.
I thought that was a good fight scene. I thought he was like gonna be the before the final boss. I think they should have saved that fight for and just he could have killed one of the other lesser goons first to send kind of a message, and then that would have been a really good final showdown before Wesley. But I liked it. I liked that. I thought it was pretty intense, especially.
That was a good scene too. And I believe I saw somewhere that during one of the takes, the actor that played Jimmy picked up a log, and I think he thought it was a prop, and he smashed Swayze with it. And that was what injured him on set, but it was a real log. Thought it was a movie prop. My one good scene, I had two. I think one of you mentioned it, where it was Dalton's first kind of showing of his cooling ability, where they had, I believe it was the girl that was dancing up on the bar top, and he nods to the guy like, hey, go get her. The guy pulls out the knife, and that's when you see Dalton's like rules pan out. He diffuses the situation. The girl comes down, she's impressed. The guy's kicked out of the bar by the other security, and they're like, okay, I get it. That makes sense. He knows what he does.
After he face plants the guy into the table.
Yeah. He just comes out, he pulls the knife. He comes from behind quickly, 1, 2, bang, bang, head on the table, knife's dropped, get him out of here. Just it shows the staff, like, this guy knows what's up. He's here for a reason. Everything before this was just words. Now we see it in action. It's like, okay, this makes sense. Let's get into the bad. There's a handful of, I'll just pass on. So, Sil, what's your one bad? Because I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about different stuff here.
Yeah, we talk about like an excessive amount of glass breaking in the whole movie for no reason.
Exploding.
You're right. An old, a 67-year-old taking 4 shotguns to the chest before taking a final blow that lands him on top of the shattering table like a champ. Well, one thing that was a letdown for me was, when this, first of all, I didn't know if you want to get in a fist fight, you got to wear a button down and jeans, which whatever. But when they show up and Dalton points out at the boot with the blade, right? Like, hey, the boot, watch it, right? I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Yeah, right. Like, and I get it, right? But when they like introduce, they in the movies they'll introduce like some sort of powerful weapon, whatever that you're about to fight, and the good guy has to like figure it out. Okay, like I don't know if this was part of maybe the cuts, but on the first swing, the boot gets dismantled. You don't see the blade anymore. They don't refer to it anymore. Like I was like looking forward for that blade to like, I don't know, to poke someone.
I think he
cut somebody.
When he drags him outside, he pulls the boot off, I think, and like he throws it on the roof.
Throws it like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite launches it.
That was it. Like literally.
Sorry,
Josh Allen
neutralized.
We're closed.
Completely
all these people
neutralized.
Drinking and having a good time.
You're too stupid to have a good time.
Yeah.
Kevin, what's your one bad scene that stands out that you had to rewind and rewatch?
It's a small scene, but it was cringeworthy. It's when Dalton opens the door and Steve's in there banging the lady in the closet. And he's like, Steve,
I'm on my break.
He's like, you're done. But I'm on my break. But the worst part is when Dalton rings the door open, he reaches down and he pulls up this disgusting like man diaper. It's like the opposite of tighty whities. They weren't tighty whities. They were like loose baggy diaper whities. And I'm like, what the hell is he wearing?
Yo, Steve. Your history.
But I'm on my break.
Stay on it.
And I'm like, what? Go back and watch that scene.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And say what is that contraption he's pulling up? They're like, it's like if they're tighty whities, he got like 3 sizes too big because
he's
weird.
completely naked, and the girl just kind of has her shirt pulled down.
And then he's like, you're done, but I'm on my break. And then they show her, and she's like,
Kevin, you mentioned the doctor scene. So I read a fun fact about so the actress. The funny thing is, like, she put herself through learning how to stitch, and then at the end of on set, they were like, "Nah, just use a stapler."
All for nothing.
And in that scene, like, she's looking through his medical records. Oh, you bring your own medical records, and then she's stapling them, and she's like, "Oh, your file says you have a degree from NYU." Why does a medical file have his education in there?
You're right.
It's like,
just for in case anybody needs it.
Oh, I see you're allergic to it. Oh, it says here that you have a degree, a Ph.D. in philosophy from NYU.
Your 6th birthday, you didn't get the Nerf gun you wanted. That's probably the root of your problems.
Oh, that's classic.
Oh, God. Diaz, what's your one bad scene?
The pickup truck, the monster truck going through the car dealership.
Fucking grave digger.
They spent a lot of money on that.
So much money in this movie.
I can't even fully say it without laughing. He's sitting there, and they called Dawn to warn him, hey, he's going to mess up the dealership. He's at the dealership, right?
You have to back up to the beginning of the movie, and you're picking out these things that are bizarre and like kind of comical. At the very beginning, like when they pull up in this giant monster truck, like it's a movie about bouncers in a bar. There's a monster truck?
No reason. So they don't call the cops. They call Dalton, the bouncer from the bar. And is this the only bar in town? We don't get into that. I'm not even. There's so much bad. But he goes to the dealership, and they wait till Dalton gets there to start driving over all the cars.
Well, they already blew up 2 buildings, so they couldn't repeat that off factor of blowing something up. So they said,
little filming error. If you watch the scene closely, there's one point where you can see, and there's no roof on the building. It's wide open on the top.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yeah. Jimmy, what is your one bad scene to stop it?
Oh, God. I would say any scene where Sam Elliott's in, just nothing ages well. Just showing his pubes. I'm going to show you my dick. Like, just every scene he's in is brutal. I just literally got to the scene where he showed us the scar, and there's just this bush just pops out, just explodes out of his
like scary movie.
In a restaurant.
And then the dancing scene. He's like slow dancing with Dr. Clayton while he's trying to secretly seduce her in front of Dalton. And,
what is that about? What is all that about?
Yeah, how he's got his hand around her neck, and I thought he was going to bring her in for a kiss. And he like ends up dipping her, but oh God, he is brutal.
So for mine, I have 2 little bad scenes that I think one of you we mentioned previously, but the whole striptease by Wesley's pet on the bar, like, we want to talk about trim and fat from this movie. Why do we need an 8-minute strip? Not even tease, because it's not a tease, because she gets completely topless in the front of the entire bar. Completely unnecessary.
Right.
You could have gone right into Jimmy's fight scene.
I didn't know what her relationship was. I thought at first she was Jimmy's girlfriend.
She was a pet.
And then she was,
No, I think she's technically, she's Wesley's.
She was like all beat up and bruised at Wesley's house previously. So I don't know. I feel like there was a missed scene there. And then how about just the ending where they all blatantly just get away with murder? Like, I didn't see nothing. You see nothing? I didn't see nothing. Tinker, did you see anything?
It took
Polar bear fell on me.
That they each got a shot. Like the first shot. It was Red who shot him. And then nope, he's still up. Oh, Pete gets a shot. Boom. And then everybody gets a shot. You get a shot. You get a shot. You get a shot. Just,
at that point, it's like, how do we end it? How do we end the movie? Whatever, dude. It's been 5 hours.
Just wrap it up. Nobody's arrested. It's fine.
Yeah. You guys noticed that
I didn't see anything. Tinker, did you see anything? I was attacked by a polar bear.
Well,
that was something. All right, let's get into the ugly. What aged like fine milk? What's the scenes that stand out to us? So, Sil, we'll start with you again.
I mean, we mentioned them all, I guess. There's nothing. The polar bear is stupid. Like, I don't
that right there. That movie. And I mean, okay, when you can see me live and you can see me online, Sil, your face right there. Everyone look at Sil. That whole reaction he just had, That's the point of the stop it. That's what stop it is. So we go, oh Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
Yeah, Polar Bear takes it, I think, pretty good.
Polar Bear is there. Yes.
Yeah. Kevin, what's your one ugly scene?
You got to lose monster trucks, man. There's no need. The monster truck thing.
I was waiting forever for that. The monster truck.
I don't know why it's there. Monster trucks are a dead thing.
I was wondering when that would come into play because I was just. It's like this
it's just
it had to be there for a reason,
just
right?
destroys a local car dealership.
Diaz, what's your ugly?
Now, my ugly is going to piggyback off one of your bads, like the whole they all get away with murder at the end. Not only do they get away with killing Wesley, there's nothing but bodies all over his house, his lawn. There's dead bodies everywhere. So you mean to tell me on the way into the house, the cops didn't see any dead bodies? The car on fire outside? The henchmen that are missing?
I forgot about the car that he just drove up that got lit up and blew. Yep.
Dude, you know how hard it is to stuck a pedal with a knife?
Yeah.
And the knife is
and for it to drive straight to the location.
So it's the knife that's used like when the note that says it was tails.
Yeah.
And it's
the murder weapon.
The knife has a quarter. The end of the handle is a quarter and it's tails.
Yeah. The murder weapon that Dalton took from the other crime scene that he left, where he left all his DNA and his dead body and just moved the body around, took the knife out, left the town like, it was nothing. Yeah, that knife, the murder weapon.
Speaking of Eddie the bartender, where the hell was he?
When Garrett was getting was the only character there, I guess. Jimmy, what's your ugly scene?
Oh God, Brad Wesley just watching across his pond, and Dalton and Dr. Clayton having sex on the roof, and he's just in his rocking chair, rocking back and forth, just watching them have sex from like 800 yards, like 300 yards out.
And that was something we didn't really mention, but previously in the movie, it was revealed that they sort of had a fling, or maybe it was a one-sided thing.
Yeah,
but
he was
Wesley
with her,
had an interest in her, and she left town, and he freaked out. So he finally gets to see what it was all about. He gets to watch her in action, I guess. Just like our first episode with the peeping Tom and Back to the Future.
George McFly in the trees.
Yeah. It's him and George McFly watching the two just bang on the top of a barn. My ugly scene, the $20 to touch him guy, the guy that's pimping out his wife.
Bruh.
$10 a boob to kiss him. He's like, aren't you gonna kiss him? No, well, where's the $20? I ain't got $20.
Just keep squeezing him.
For a second, I thought that was Joaquin Phoenix. He looked just like them. I was like, is this a Joker? No. Squeezing. That's odd. That's a good one.
That don't hold up well.
That's a good one.
That one does not hold up well. Running solo. Let's get into this category. What's the one thing that won this movie for you? Was it the acting? Was it the directing? The script? Was it something else? What made this movie for you? Jimmy, let's go with you. We'll work backwards this time around.
So like a lot of these like Joe Silver movies, a lot of the characters seem to have mostly a military background. You go back to or a law enforcement background. You go to like Lethal Weapon, and they're all, the antagonists are vets from the Vietnam War. You got Murtaugh and Riggs are Vietnam vets. You got John McClane, who's a local police officer. You got the special forces guys from Predator. They're mercenaries. And then you got Patrick Swayze, who I thought before seeing this was going to have the similar background, but he's a major at NYU, or a philosophy major at NYU. And we have no idea where his martial arts background comes from. We don't know really anything about him. And that was my favorite. It was just a total left turn from what we're usually, as far as these guys with their backgrounds. He's just an NYU student. In philosophy.
Yeah. Diaz, what won this movie for you?
The lack of serious acting won this movie for me. This is such a garbagely written movie. That's the best way to say it. They didn't try too hard with this, and they still knocked it out the park with the excellent writing of this movie. Like Jimmy said, there's so much non-answered questions. If Wade Garrett showed Dalton everything, is he the sensei? Is he the karate master? Or
he's the Miyagi?
Yeah, like is he? Did he? If he did, who? Like I can't even say the sentence because I don't understand what's going on. And that's what made it for me was the whole what? Who?
Yeah.
Huh?
Why is this all happening?
Yes, the whole confusion through the whole movie had me wanting more answers. So it got me. Just the whole not answering. And I'm watching the scene right now where he's doing yoga or Tai Chi in the woods for no reason.
Yeah.
His apartment's big enough for this himself. So I don't know what he's outside. I don't know. I don't get it.
Kevin, what is the winning factor in the running solo for you?
Just the pure amount of ridiculous brawling.
It broke up the storyline, which was non-existent.
A couple staples. Other than that, these guys are in all-out brawls every day.
Time.
And when they come to work, they look fine. Like they look fine. No black eyes.
What's your job? I just fight
no missing teeth. No, nothing. They're like, we just all out brawl every night. And here we are. Just another day. Like the Double Deuce has the best health insurance for its employees anywhere. What's your
the doc is she's rolling in the dough because she's got an endless supply.
She says that, right? She's like, the Double Deuce. Oh, they send us a lot of business.
Sil, what won this movie for you?
I think I go back to what I was talking about earlier. I think they when I watched it the second time, I enjoyed Dalton's story more than maybe the first time. If you take away the silliness and you take away the unnecessary maybe cuts, you get a solid story about a guy like, that fixes problems, that gets hired to just come and fix this, and he has his principles and he teaches everybody, and that's kind of cool. I can get behind that. Of course, and then it gets a little crazy, but I enjoy that, and now I can relate to that movie and those principles that Dalton had.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of in the same lines as Diaz and Kevin. I just referred to it as the overall campiness of this movie. I love those campy slashers of the 80s and the 90s. And I think that this campiness of whether it's acting, ridiculous action sequences, nonsensical sub storylines like the monster truck and the dumb polar bear scene that doesn't need to be there. Just that's what has created this cult following, is just how ridiculously fun this is. This is a movie that you're in college and you put on with the boys. You're just sitting around drinking a 12 or a 30 rack and just watching Roadhouse. And that's what won it for me. This is just a fun movie. I don't think there's a lot of amazing, theatrical attributes that it contributes to the film as a whole, but it's just a fun movie. This is an interesting one because we usually do the category of montage madness. What should we add to this? Music, action sequence, sex scene, slow motion sweat, or a makeover? This movie pretty much has all of these.
Yeah, there's nothing.
That's what I was going to say.
It hit the cycle. We get the music bar scenes. There's a handful of sex scenes. There's slow motion sweat while he's fighting and doing Tai Chi. And the makeover I refer to as the bar being made over. Over time, this bar gets a makeover. So we really hit the cycle. So I think we need to add something to this category of maybe a car chase. But we sort of had that with the monster truck as well. They don't really chase anybody, but that's another trope in this 80s, 90s era. But I mean, did anybody have any of those that they would add an additional one to this movie and put it over 220?
No. Nothing.
Because I think this thing hit all of them.
No,
it already had it.
We needed one of those. We needed one of those classic, when the main character's conflicted and he has to drive off in the night and they're playing like one of those like 80s songs.
Yeah.
Like now he's got to where Dalton has to now stand up.
He has to dig deep. It's a dig deep.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little like Hearts on Fire or something. We didn't get enough of that. We didn't get any of that.
You know what? We saw about when you're talking about movies like that, let's stack this up against other horrible 80s action movies. This has, like you said, it has everything, Nick. It has your sex scenes, your montages, your villains, your over-the-top campiness. Like,
yeah, this is up there because when you're comparing, it's just such a weird action movie, right? Because it's not that, Arnold Predator. It's not the Lethal Weapon or the Aliens. It's not First Blood Rambo. It's, those are like excessive action violence, guns blazing, little nods to sci-fi. And this is like a very grounded 80s action movie where it is just a simple town.
Like Jimmy said, all the other action heroes at that time, there's a backstory on Seagal being in the CIA. Glover and Mel Gibson are ex-soldiers that are cops now. Dalton's an NYU professor or philosophy major with a bouncer sidekick.
Yeah.
Who can
like,
fight?
I wonder if that's how he got into it. Was he paying for school? Like, how did he go from philosophy to becoming the cooler?
I mean, and they put his philosophy degree. I mean, that's how he probably came up with the 3-step plan of cleaning up any situation.
The plan of life.
So
he writes motivational books now.
Yeah, I do like the whole. I love the whole stack it up thing too, and that'll be a new category for us moving forward, DS, because that's an awesome thing to just kind of compare stuff. So like, I mean, with the action movies, it's for me, it's weird because like I said, it feels like two different genres, right? Where it's like you have those Predators and Aliens, where it's these giant, robust men just covered in oil, the Schwarzeneggers and stuff like that, the Balboas, and then you have Dalton.
Okay,
kind of scrawny.
Here's the thing: if
bigger.
a lot of people don't understand Rocky. When it came to Rocky, he had a horrible win-loss record. Is Dalton beating Rocky in a bar fight?
Yeah, that's a good. So stack it. Yeah, we'll stack up where the character of Dalton is. He, can he compete with the Rocky Balboas? Can he compete with the Daniel Sons or the Johnny Lawrences of the 80s?
Well, wasn't in Rocky 4, like him growing up in Philadelphia? Wasn't he like he's a street fighter?
In 5, right? he fights on the street.
5, okay, in 5. Sorry,
Yeah,
5. And he goes back to his like street fighting days as a kid. So I don't know. I think Dalton's got his.
It's Balboa
might have met his match.
Is that my ring's outside moment? That's a great line in the movie. I didn't hear no bell. My ring's outside.
No,
I'd have to give that one to Balboa.
So Rocky's kicking Dalton's ass.
If Dalton cannot kick Tinker's ass, yes, then I'm going.
Yeah.
Dalton did have a lot of trouble with these guys. I mean, he got beat up quite a bit by. I mean, for the most part, other than Jimmy, average schmoes. He got beat up quite a bit.
Okay.
Other than
I do
Jimmy
think
and Dalton, the whole cast of characters as bouncers weren't like maybe it was intentional, but they got, you got Dalton and you got Jimmy. These two guys fit. They looked the part. Then the rest of them are like either just average guys or
exactly.
Guys.
Like you said, guys that just work every day and just get
Dalton had his hands full quite a few times.
Dude, all these guys,
other than Jimmy,
all these guys look like they work their 9 to 5 and they're like, 6 o'clock, we got to go get in a fight. Like he's fucking button down, tucked in shirts. Like, no, honey, I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna just see how much.
It's true. They looked professional. They all had like button ups and blazers. And
it's
all right. So we'll go around the horn real quick. Let's stack it up. Jimmy, who wins in a fight, Balboa or Dalton?
Rocky.
Yeah,
Diaz, class boxer.
Yeah. Dalton or Rocky?
Oh, I'm gonna have to. As much as I like Dalton and the overness, Balboa. Actually, no, I'm gonna take Dalton. Balboa can box. He gets hit in the head with punches. A kick will knock Rocky out. He
go
gets
for the knees on the bigger
blows.
guy.
Yeah, too many head blows, man. A foot to the face will take Rocky out.
Still, Rocky or Dalton?
Rocky.
Kevin, who are you thinking? Who are you taking in this fight?
Rocky's got the heart, but if you look at technique, I think Dalton would pull it off.
I think Dalton as well, just because the whole like mixed martial arts versus boxing, he can kind of do. He might not be as good at the boxing, but he can do the kicks and everything like that. Whereas Balboa, he might be able to take him in punches, but anything other than that, Dalton sort of has him. So then let's put him.
Well, it goes back to Rocky V though, because where he doesn't have to play within when he gets in the street fight with Tommy, he's now, you know.
Is he landing roundhouses though?
That's what I'm saying.
But like he's not confined to the rules of boxing at that point. So anything can go. So I would go.
So then let's use anybody from non-boxing then. So let's look at Karate Kid then. So I'll start with Jimmy. Do you take Dalton or anybody from Karate Kid, whether it's Daniel-san, Johnny Lawrence, or Miyagi?
Oh boy.
Who's the sensei of the Cobra Kai dojo? I forgot his name. The bad guy.
Johnny Lawrence.
Sweep the leg. Sweep the leg.
Terry Silver?
Well, Terry Silver and
John. Shit. His name's also John.
Anybody from the Karate Kid? Is any of those guys beating Dalton?
I would take Lawrence.
I'm going with Mr. Miyagi.
Oh,
that's a scene you'd love to see.
We don't know the extent of Dalton's martial arts background. I mean, clearly it looks like he has some in this movie, but you'd have to take the ones with the actual belts. I'll go Ralph Macchio, you know?
Mm-hmm. Daniel-san.
Wax on, wax off.
Still anyone from Karate Kid taking Dalton?
What are you going to say? Jaden Smith? No.
Oh, wait, Jackie Chan is Mr. Miyagi, so yeah, you know.
In the newer remakes, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's step into the time machine a little bit, shall we? Let's fire this thing up and let's get into our time machine time. We're going to cast forward. Now, it's interesting because this is the first time we're going to do this where we are getting a reboot sort. So there is sort of a cast out there. But let's quickly just go around the table and recast this movie with present day actors, directors. So I'll give you the character and the director, and we'll kind of go from there. So the director, the one that I picked for this movie, I picked Chad Stahelski, the director of the John Wick series. Obviously can knock action sequences out of the park. But that was my pick for this movie. So Kevin, who would you have direct this movie today?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of the name of the director, but the people that directed The Matrix, only because there's some really like
the Wachowski
sisters, like the fight scenes in The Matrix, which would bring it into like the next level of more of an action movie. Mm-hmm. They would probably take these not corny, but these slightly comical, over the top fight scenes and add some realistic, I guess The Matrix, the Matrix fights are not realistic, but I guess they'd up the game, I think, you know?
Yeah. Sil, who's directing Roadhouse today for you?
I don't know, but it has Jason Statham in
it. he's in there. All right. Diaz, who's directing this for you today?
Dude, because this was set in one place, a shitty ass town in Jasper, Missouri. Give me George Miller. Give me Mad Max, baby. Give me Western desert destruction. Give me Roadhouse at the last apocalyptic bar. And there's one karate guy. Yes, I want George Miller.
All right. Jimmy, who's directing this?
The sad thing is I feel like this movie does take itself serious, but if you went like the action comedic route, what about like Brett Ratner, who directed like the Rush Hour series?
Oh,
you know,
that's a good little spin on it. All right. So let's recast some of these characters then. So Dalton, I picked him as Dacre Montgomery, also known as Billy from Stranger Things. I think he's got that perfect little look. Maybe it's because he already had the 80s hair in Stranger Things, but he also was the Red Ranger in the Power Rangers remake a few years back, or a handful of years back at this point. But I'd put Dacre Montgomery in that Dalton role. Kevin, who did you put as Dalton?
Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood.
From Tokyo Drift.
He's in a couple
Texas Chainsaw. I forget what else, but I remember him from the Fast and the Furious series. Sil, who do you have as Dalton?
I got John Berthel. Is that his name? The Punisher?
Who is it?
The guy that
John Bernthal?
John Bernthal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Shane, baby. He's Shane. He will always be
dead,
Shane.
Baby. Yep.
He's Shane forever.
Shane.
Yes, who do you got as Dalton?
Oh, dude, Mark Wahlberg, baby. This is going to be placed in Boston, baby. We doing this in Dorchester, Massachusetts. This is going to be an Irish-themed Roadhouse. in a pub in Boston.
Hey, I'm a fucking cooler kid.
Get the fuck out the bar.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I played football at Brockton High.
Yeah. Jimmy, who's Dalton in your cast forward?
So I thought, just looking at it and just recently watching The Iron Claw, I thought I would choose Zac Efron, but I'm going to piggyback off of Syl and use another Punisher. Even today, Thomas Jane. He's kind of built he's on the little smaller side but he has that quiet professional demeanor. So I would go with Tom Jane.
All right, let's recast Doc. I picked Annie Murphy, played Alexis in Schitt's Creek. She's got that just like a little bit of extra quirkiness, but she can kind of fill that, girl next door, blonde, doctor-y kind of role. So, Kevin, who'd you put as Doc?
Anya Taylor-Joy, the one from Queen's Gambit.
One of Jimmy's favorites.
What?
Last Night in Soho?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was great in that. Syl, who is your Doc?
I think Jessica Alba will be good Doc if she comes back. I think she looks just like her.
She does. She fits that role. Diaz, who's your Doc?
My Doc, listen, you need a star for this movie if we're doing a remake, and you star her in a bigger role. Give her a fight scene or two. The girl that plays Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie.
Oh, yeah. She's up there.
Put her in a doctor's outfit. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Oh, please. Jimmy, who do you got as Doc?
I'm going to stick with Tom Jane being my Dalton. I'm going to go with someone around close to his age, and I would go probably Julie Bowen from Modern Family. Claire Dunphy.
Yep. Okay. Talked about her last week as well because the whole reference of I forgot she was in Happy Gilmore. I was rewatching that the other night. Wade Garrett, the old rough and tough ex cooler, not still there currently.
Sam Elliott.
I'm gonna go with Hugh Jackman. And he's got that older appearance. He's still absolutely shredded for Wolverine. But I got Hugh Jackman in that role. So, Kevin, who's your Wade Garrett?
Well, since I went with second generation with the Eastwood, I'm going with Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
Okay. We're all sticking in the Marvel universe for right now, I guess, huh? Syl, who do you got for Wade Garrett?
Now, this is where Jason Statham comes in.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Got that older appearance. Diaz, Wade Garrett.
I'm going Boston, baby. Although I'm yankied out, it's kind of funny. Going Boston. Our Wade Garrett's a bigger, stronger than Dalton. John Cena, baby. Let's go. Give me Cena. Give me
You
Cena.
can't see me.
You can't see me in the bar, buddy. You can't see me
Every
in
time you kick somebody out, your time is up. My time is now.
Yeah, exactly. In Southie, baby. Let's go.
Jimmy, who's your Wade Garrett?
Tom Hardy.
Okay.
Ooh,
all right.
I like that.
I was thinking of him for Dalton at one point, but
Tom Hardy,
I like that.
Just because he's a loose cannon, like Alfie from Peaky Blinders. He's just. I'll use Tom Hardy.
I like that. All right, and let's round it out because we can't have this movie without the big bad, Brad Wesley. You see this guy get fan cast as every villain, and it's for a reason. Giancarlo Esposito. You can't get a better modern day bad guy than him. Kevin, who do you have as your main villain, the foe, Brad Wesley?
John Hamm from Mad Men.
That's
a good one.
That'll work. Syl, who do you got?
I got Kurt Russell.
Oh, okay.
Kurt Russell.
A couple Russells on this cast from us.
Yeah,
so
it'd be a family deal.
Ego. Yeah.
Diaz, who's your Boston bad?
He's not from Boston. But if you're gonna have, you gotta have some martial artists in this movie to give John Cena a run, to give Mark Wahlberg a run. Give me, with a horrible Boston accent attempt, give me Jean-Claude Van Damme, baby.
Jimmy, who's your Wesley to round out the cast forward portion?
This guy's perfect. Neil McDonough, the guy from Walking Tall, kind of owns the casinos and stuff. He's from Yellowstone, does the same thing, owns casinos with his brother. He was also in Captain America. Remember Steve rescues all like him and his, all of them from from that POW camp, the Hydra camp or whatever. Yeah. But he's always that sleazy businessman who kind of is the same character in Walking Tall. He owns what does he own? He owns the casino and he has a whole bunch of hired goons and,
Very reminiscent to this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. A lot of similarities.
All right. Well, let's do the time warp real quickly. Where are these characters today? I only did a few. For me, somehow Dalton is not in jail. And we mentioned the references to another celebrity. And I think that Dalton was at the perfect time frame to make this his career, where he is the John Taffer now. He has the reality show of him fixing up these rough and tough bars. He's getting them back to life. And, he did this through he did the job, boots on the ground in the 90s, the 2000s. And then once that mid to late 2000s hit, he's on the TV networks as John Taffer rescuing these bars. But he didn't stay. He's not with Doc. She is still in town. She is still just doing her thing as a doctor, but they are not together. He lives on the road and he's up fixing these places. So, Jimmy, time warp. You have any idea where these characters are today?
Unfortunately, Dalton passed away due to the infection that he succumbed to with the gunshot wound dipping.
Can only get stabbed so many times and go into murky water.
Yeah, he didn't last too long, so he's out. Dr. Clayton continued on with her practice, and it was just a lovely summer fling.
She accelerated medical field in stab wounds by 20 years, just being based in Jasper, Missouri.
Summer loving, drinking that deuces.
Diaz, time warp. Any idea where these people are?
Doc's still in the town. Townies never leave. So I think she's still in the town. She's still practicing medicine. Dalton's, like you said, on the road. But I think he's also he has a whole business. He's a franchise. He runs the coolers. That's what they're called. He literally recruits people to do exactly what he does. He teaches them like Wade Garrett taught him. He literally teaches people how to cool, I guess.
Yeah. Sil, any idea where they're at?
Yeah, I think Dalton's no longer with us. I think he just faced the gun. I don't know. He's dead. He's gone.
You only have two options, and he finally chose the first one.
Yeah.
You can only beat guys with guns in fights for so long. You're gonna lose that bet at one point or the other.
But here's the funny thing: the guy that owns the Double Deuce, he moved along or passed, or he's no longer in the picture. But someone took over the Double Deuce and is running things the right way.
And renamed it Roadhouse.
And that was Tinker.
Tinker takes over the bar.
Tinker takes over the bar and runs it like it should be.
Yeah, because now he's all straight and narrow after his near-death experience with the polar bear. That brought him back to reality.
It's called the Igloo.
Yeah, the Igloo bar.
The Igloo.
Kevin, where are these people at today?
Well, Dalton becomes the new Brad Wesley. Since these guys, everybody in town that runs the businesses now, they're all in debt to him. So now he doesn't have to really work. He's like, he has the improvement society. Everybody pays him. So he kind of like just takes a skim of the whole town now.
He cools the town.
He cools the town.
Whoa.
And Tinker is his Biff. He like washes the Mercedes, takes care of like the house and does all of that.
I just got to the polar bear scene. As the polar bear is tilting over, why is he shooting at it as if that would stop the polar bear from falling?
It's the best.
I think he's dumb enough to think it was a live polar bear.
The best scene.
Well, we're still in the time machine. Let's do something real quick. Prequel, sequel, requel, remake, spinoff, or pass. What should be done with this movie today? And it's very interesting because, well, we got one of these right around the corner. So let's give our own opinions, and then we'll kind of touch on the new Roadhouse trailer before we put this thing back in the time machine. So of all of those options, what should be done with this movie? And I kind of would have done sort of like what we've been doing with a lot of these 80s. You know, we've seen the success with Cobra Kai branching off of Karate Kid, and it's that sort of requel. It's that sequel that's years down the road that picks off somewhere in the storyline. And I would sort of give it that Creed vibe where it follows maybe Dalton's son, which is funny because that's what the original sequel tried to do. But I think enough time has passed now where if it was done correctly, you could follow Dalton's son, maybe trying to find answers to who his dad was. It brings him back to the Double Deuce. And then now that people realize, this was Dalton's kid, they kind of come after him and he has to sort of fend him off. And, maybe you have some older characters that are still kicking around the town and they remember what Dalton had done for them. So they help with that onslaught of battle. So kind of something along those lines. But Sil, what would you do with this movie today, if anything?
No, I wouldn't do much because they already tried. There is a Roadhouse sequel that I know Dia's probably going to talk about, and they're gonna try to remake it, right? And you said we're gonna talk about the trailer. It just I feel like I always have the same comment. Just leave it as is because this was it, right? I don't want to watch more of this. Like this was enough. This can stay, and I can come back to it, and I can.
That might be the best quote of this whole thing right now. But I don't want any more of this.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Kevin, what would you do with this movie? Prequel, sequel, requel, remake, spinoff, or leave it in the dust?
Yeah, it's a pass. Leave it. I think even the Roadhouse that's being remade now, they should have take that story's different enough where they should have gave the movie a different title. They're just totally trying to live off the juice of the original. Just make your own movie, whatever the story is. Like what's the tie-in? I don't believe it. They should remake it.
Diaz, what would you do with this thing?
I said I would, like I said, if I would to recast it myself, it would be like a Boston bar type thing. But that's what I would do if I was just doing the original. That's what I would do. I would remake I would do a sequel to this, but it would be not what you would think. It would be a bar type, similar. It's Dalton's son trying to do what his dad did, live up to his dad's name, because everyone knows his dad. No one knows who the hell he is. He's living in his dad's shadow. But the big bad villain is Wade Garrett's son, who blames Dalton for his dad's death.
Yeah,
so the whole movie, it's like a mystery. Who the hell has been fucking up Dalton's kid's life? The person behind the scenes being a villain to Dalton's kid the whole time is Wade Garrett's son. Who, the whole fight scene at the end, you took everything from me, throwback, like that type of thing. Where the bad guy is. Yeah. Go 80, it'll be for today, but with that 80s feel to it, like a revenge plot mystery thing.
I like it. Jimmy, what are you doing with this movie?
I would requel it. Make it into a series. I think that's a huge thing right now. Kind of, getting another generation into these 80s classics. Look what, I was never a Karate Kid guy, and I personally love the Cobra Kai series. It got me into the actual movies. I think you do the same thing. I think, having Dalton, even using the sequels. Yeah, the sequel that ended up not being greenlit, but you take that story of Dalton's son, or and go from there, make it into a shocker, a Netflix series or something.
Yeah. So we kind of hit upon it. The Roadhouse trailer. A couple things that I took of note before seeing this. So now the new Roadhouse movie is coming out on Amazon Prime next week, I believe it is. In this movie, Dalton's just an ex-UFC fighter that's kind of his whole background. So they hire him as a bouncer, which I kind of get, but the whole point of Dalton was that he was sort of the business side as well. He knew how to run a bar, like we mentioned. He was doing inventory and staffing. I just don't know how it's going to have that same feel where it's like he's just a UFC guy. He's not a bar guy. You didn't really seek him out to fix your bar. He's just some tough guy that can fend off people and fight. So I don't know how that's going to really work. So what did you guys think about that aspect?
He could be a bouncer, but he couldn't be a cooler.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. I just don't know how that's going to play out. Because that's the biggest part of Roadhouse is that he actually fixes this bar. He's not just the meathead.
What's the network that he's in? If he's not a cooler, what's the network?
Yeah. The girl in this, when she's trying to persuade him to come down, she refers to her bar as a Roadhouse, which we mentioned at the beginning of this episode is nobody's calling it a Roadhouse. You're calling it my bar in the Keys. People don't do that. I don't hear people refer to anything as a roadhouse besides a Texas roadhouse.
Do we know what the name of the bar is in this one?
I didn't catch the name of the bar, but she referred to it as a roadhouse. So
I swear to God,
I don't think the name of the bar.
It better not be no damn playoff double deuce like Snake Eyes or some stupid Joker's Wild or no.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
It probably will. It probably will be. And the I believe the film debut of Conor McGregor. I don't know how that's gonna go. They definitely hit the 80s cheesy line where he comes in swinging, saying something along the lines of everybody's doing smashing, and then he starts smashing everything up in the bar. But what did you guys? We'll go around the horn real quick and just get your opinions on what this movie's legacy is going to be. Sil, what do you think about this movie? Are you excited at all? Does this do what you would have wanted to do for a Roadhouse movie?
I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued now that I know what it could be about. I mean, I'm rewatching the trailer, and then you can see like it's got a different tone, a different approach. I think the buildup of a character that they did with Dalton is not going to be the same here. Here's more of a playful kind of like gig. I just beat up people as a UFC fighter. He probably got caught doing some dumb shit. That's why he got kicked out. Now he's got to be a bouncer. Like, I hope they don't leave the UFC in a bad light, because I'm intrigued.
It'll
see.
It'll probably be like PEDs or something.
Yeah, this man, I don't know how something happened, and then Conor McGregor. I mean, yeah, let's just see him smash some shit. I mean, if there's a movie where you want to see Conor McGregor go psycho, yeah, it's here. Or to Dia's idea, put him in a Mad Max movie and give him a car and just fucking go nuts. But that's kind of what I'm taking. I'm taking it very lightly. I'm not passionate about either movie, so I'm intrigued. I want to see what they come up with.
Jimmy, what do you think about this? You watched this trailer too as well, I believe.
I'm worried about Jake Gyllenhaal, and I'm not sure if he owes money or he's in a financial jam, and he has to do like the Nicolas Cage thing where he has to take on a whole bunch of brutally terrible projects and just kind of slowly work away at that debt.
He's on the FC list trying to get his name off it.
Let's go straight to streaming. So clearly the studio didn't have faith in it. So,
well, that's a weird aspect about this, is that this was originally with MGM, and then after they had made this movie, or during the production, Amazon purchased MGM, and this was promised to be a theatrical release.
Oh.
And then Amazon was like, "Yeah, I know, make a good movie, we'll see." And all the reviews supposedly have been good, but they're still not putting it out in theaters. They'd rather do The Beekeeper with Jason Statham in theaters. But the director is very outspoken and pissed off that this movie is not in theaters because he believes in it. The test screenings are good. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal. It's got Conor McGregor, which probably going to be a terrible actor, but that's a very big draw. If you put this in theater, the UFC people will be there in theaters to see this.
Yeah, he has enough haters and fans that they would have went to see it.
They won't
so
pay
interesting
to see him fail.
Yeah, Diaz, what do you think about this trailer and this style?
Oh, this is gonna be garbage. Listen, when I say garbage, I wish we could get an audio clip of what. This is gonna whiff.
Yeah, and Kevin, I wanted to save you for last because I know how much you adore this movie. So, what do you think about this rendition?
I'm not adverse to watching horrible movies, so I'm in. I'll watch it, but I think they would have a better chance with me if they had done a clean slate and it was a story that they weren't trying to call Roadhouse, because I'm not going to be able to watch it without the constant back of my mind. How does this compare to Roadhouse? How does this tie into the story? How are they remaking Roadhouse? When it could have just been, give it a different name, like Key Bouncer or something, and just had its own story, clean slate. Take it for what it's worth. The cooler of the keys. And,
right there. Perfect. Cooler of the keys.
Could have just taken it at face value, but I'm going to have that constant nagging. They're trying to remake Roadhouse when they could have had their own thing. But again, I've sat through a lot of terrible movies, so my ass will be in the seat.
Another line for the tiger.
Cocktail too.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, before we do send this, before we send this thing back, final thoughts. Does anybody have anything else about Roadhouse that we want to get out before we send this thing back in the time machine?
Oh my God, Roadhouse! I want to buy this.
Great. And as a bonus, I'll throw in What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
No, thank you.
No charge.
I do not want it.
But it's free, sir.
If that DVD even touches Roadhouse, I will kill you.
I just saw the music supervisor was Jimmy Iovine, the guy who owns like Interscope Records, who's with, who's collaborated a lot with Eminem and Aftermath. Yeah, like a really famous like record producer is the music supervisor for this movie.
The music was dope though, Jimmy. You can't front. The music was great in this movie.
It was a very good soundtrack. And something I forgot that I didn't even notice. This is our second movie in a row that was adapted into a theatrical play that was successful. Roadhouse was a very successful play. So much like The Wedding Singer, I think the play was received better than the movie was at the time of release.
Would you guys recommend someone that's about to watch the new Roadhouse to watch this first?
I would say so. Just to have that comparison. They're going to probably be two completely different movies. But if there's any sort of remake, I feel like you gotta at least see the first one just for a comparison value. I think you'll probably get some more enjoyment out of it. Or lack thereof enjoyment. You'll maybe have more fondness of the source material and just be more pissed off.
Yeah.
But it's going to elicit that response either way. D, any final thoughts?
Nah, man. For those that are going to chance this movie, I hope it's as bad as you want it to be, because I will see it and I know it's going to be trash and I can't wait. So
yeah. Sil, any final thoughts on Roadhouse?
No, let's keep it outside.
All right. Number one Roadhouse supporter of the podcast, Kevin. Final thoughts on your guilty pleasure movie.
Just be nice and don't eat the big white mint.
Do not eat the big white mint. All right, well, let's send this movie back to 1989 and begin our reprogramming of the popcorn time machine. We'll see you all next time with another blast from the past. And remember to be kind and rewind. We will see you next time.